All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be under some big pressure here tonight because our guest on Sportswire Radio also does some commentating, but he also pulls double duty because you see him out there in the ring for our dear friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And he kicked off Fighter Fright Day 2 with a huge victory over Jay Styro. You also see him in the breaking news updates. He's the guy that broke the news about the big attack between Craven Rage and Kodak Kid, which we covered here on Sportswire Radio last month. And very, very excited to get him on and get his story and talk all things Wrestling Championship Entertainment. He's one of the best in the business on commentating, and he's one of my favorites. So let's get right to it. So wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, global sports show, pro wrestling star, wrestler, and commentator for Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Here's Prince Charles. My friend, happy Merry belated Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
All right, happy to have you here. Obviously, a lot to get into here about Wrestling Championship
Oh yeah,
Entertainment.
a lot.
Also, a lot to get into here. The off season has not stopped Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I will get to all of that shortly, but I want to talk about you for a second here and set the tables for us for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, sportnarium.com/player. And the big victory that you had at Fighter Fright Day 2, the last show of the year for Wrestling Championship Entertainment, where you got the job done over Jay Styro, and it was a very, very entertaining match. And talk about it for those that are watching and listening here on Sportswire Radio.
Oh yeah, it was a very entertaining match, man. You know, did I have any doubts about it? Nah, I knew I was going to win that matchup. I knew it 100% knew I was going to win it. I mean, the ref did everything he can, I think, in my opinion, to try to cost me the match. I mean,
Oh,
you
you
should
were
have seen the
upset a
way he.
couple of counts. I watched the match. It was a couple of times. You
I
were
mean,
very
you
upset
should
with
have.
those counts.
I mean, you should have seen him. I was like, did you graduate kindergarten? But I
Well,
still got the win anyways,
hey,
cause I'm the
listen, win's
man.
a win. Well, you definitely are. I
Yeah.
mean, win's a win. And, it's got to feel good, though, ending the year with a victory because they always remember. They say this in anything. And I've been doing this for 4 years, and I've interviewed coaches, I've interviewed athletes, I've interviewed elected politicians, and obviously wrestlers. You name them, I've done them in my career. And I always say one of the things they always remember is what you did last. And the last time we saw Prince Charles, you got a victory, and that's got to make you feel good.
Oh, I feel very good. I also wrestled my matchup day one. I don't really want to talk about that, but but that's all in the past. What matters is on the next day I got the dub. So clear, cut and dry. I'm ready for next year. I'm ready to step into that ring if they want me to. If I need to step in the ring, if I can kick some ass, I'll do it.
Well, let me ask you a question because you talk about that, and that's an interesting point. You almost kind of stole my thunder. That's why you do this as a broadcaster, and you know the drill. I
Oh,
mean,
forgive me.
no,
Forgive
it's
me.
we're only goofing here. And
You're
before
the
I
reverend
get
here. You're the reverend here. You do your job. I'm sorry. I'll step back.
it was only a joke, and before I get to a comment, which I will get to in a second, I mean, is that something that you want to do more often? Do you want to wrestle on more WCE shows in 23? Is that something that you feel that you, as a goal of yours? I mean, talk to me about that.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to wrestle. I've always wanted to wrestle in that ring. I didn't really wrestle this year that much, or even when I started last year, because I wasn't really ready to wrestle. I just
Mm.
wanted to, I just wanted to focus on myself and start off slow from the bottom and then right and work my way onto the top like every other wrestler.
I can definitely respect that. Let me do get to a comment from one of my favorites on Sportswire Radio, and that is, of course, the Cult of Killjoy, Dan Robertson, who's up at, I believe it's 3:06 in the morning in the UK right now. So, Dan, I have to ask. I mean, what are you doing up right now? Are we supposed to do an interview after Prince Charles? I mean, are you looking to talk on Sportswire afterwards? I mean, obviously, always love the Killjoy. Of course, everything he does in nonstop action wrestling. He's become one of my favorites. Of course, we own merchandise from the Cult of Killjoy, Dan Robertson. And please follow him also on Instagram and Facebook as well. And certainly, we want to bring him back on Sportswire Radio very soon. So that's my question to Dan Robertson here. But let me ask you another question when it comes to the wrestling side of things, Prince Charles, and sort of the back and forth between broadcasting and wrestling. I mean, Jerry Lawler's done it obviously famously. Taz did it for a while. Excalibur, I guess you might want to say. I mean, there are examples of numerous broadcasters who go back and forth between wrestling and broadcasting. Is that something that you feel comfortable in doing? And talk to me about kind of the back and forth there.
I feel very comfortable. I feel very comfortable doing that. Not only wrestling, but also, sitting behind the scenes talking about it. I crave wrestling. I love watching wrestling ever since I was a kid. The first time I even saw a wrestling match or a wrestling segment or a promo, I was hooked on it. Hooked on it.
Well,
Whether
well,
the
that's
Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, from today, I've been
well.
hooked on everything.
You know, it's funny. Almost all the things I watch these days are wrestling. So, I mean, people ask me, and they say, "Well, what are you up to? What are you up to when it comes to stock market, current events?" And I say, "Well, is it wrestling related? Because that stuff I know all about it." And I kind of wanted to ask you. Then we'll come back to your journey in a second in terms of everything you're doing in wrestling championship entertainment. But I mean, what got you into professional wrestling? What got you into it and wanted to go about and do this here? Talk to me about that.
Well, are you talking about the history of professional wrestling, not just WC, just professional
Just in
wrestling as a
general,
whole?
how you got to where you are today, where people see you and they can hear you on
Well,
YouTube and Facebook.
well, I believe it was my friends, who is on the roster right now. They asked me to be a part of wrestling, because I really didn't have nothing going on, because I was doing a lot of things, But I remember watching one of their shows and I was very interested in it. I was very interested in all the shows that they were putting on, It was very impressive, especially with the way they did things in the ring. I remember saying I want in on it. But first I was going to start off commentating, then I was going to work in the ring because I want to study some of the wrestling moves, how they do, how they work.
Well, certainly very very noble points there. And then when it comes to, let's say, I'm always curious about this because I have interviewed some people who do broadcasting, and then also some people that have, I guess you could say, kind of have done both, but might be more one over the other. When you prepare for, let's say, broadcasting versus wrestling a match, I was always curious on maybe some of the similarities or differences.
Well, the difference is when I first was broadcasting, man, I was kind of nervous a bit because I didn't know what to make of or what to say. But then when I saw the wrestlers out there, I knew stuff just popped up in my head and I knew exactly what to say. I definitely know exactly what to say about Craven Rage because I think he is the boss and I think he's the freaking man.
Well, speaking of that, Craven Rage is here with us, and he says, "Good evening to us both." He says, "You're the best commentator in wrestling, and certainly you wiped the floor with your opponent in your first match. So, uh, congratulations on all of that. And I do want to give a quick plug to our friends at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And if you like what you hear from WCE, please follow them at WCEHeat.com for more information. Also, Wrestling Championship Entertainment is on Facebook, WCE Heat. Also, YouTube as well, Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And we were actually, as crazy as it sounds, we're not too far away from 2023 season starting because we're almost here toward the end of December, which means we're about halfway home almost toward the off season ending. I think we start the season in April or so, and let's keep our fingers crossed we can go to that point. That means we're about 3+ months or so away. So time is definitely flying when you're having fun, and our friends at Wrestling Championship Entertainment always do a great job with that. And Prince Charles is one of those reasons why we love wrestling championship entertainment. So I was curious then also, Prince, and coming back to you for a minute in wrestling championship entertainment, and I'll get to the roster in a second. But speaking of Craven Rage, you actually had those breaking news segments. We got to see one of them, which led to our segment with Craven Rage and Kodak Kid last month on the air, and talk to me about what that was like in sharing that story and doing those segments, and how does that make you feel?
I don't know what to make of it. I didn't know how to feel about it when I broke that news because Craven's Craven's my dude. Let's be real, he's my dude. But I did not know he was going to do any of that to
mm,
Kodak Kid.
mm.
So I didn't know what to make of it. I just broke the news. I'm just the newscaster. Sometimes I break the good news. Sometimes I break the bad news.
Don't shoot the messenger. That's the old rule of thumb.
Mostly the good news, but that was bad news. It was good news because I love seeing Craven Rage wrestle, man. But it was bad news seeing Kodak Kid get hurt.
Yeah, it's tough. I
So
mean, it's tough. It's tough. God.
so I wish Kodak Kid a speedy recovery. Hopefully his neck heals quickly and all that. But I have to be honest with you. If you're gonna wrestle Craven Rage, my money's on him. Okay, I'm sorry. That's me. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, he's shown so far throughout this season, and we've had him on, I want to say, at least 5 times at this point. And I mean, he's pretty much shown that no matter who's in front of him, he stacks him and some, and even some people he's run out of WCE. I mean, certainly, unknown names out there, and we won't mention them, but that's kind of the run that he's on. He's really been the ruler of the yard, and I'm curious because you mentioned Craven and you love Craven Rage, and as a broadcaster, how do you separate, let's say, calling Craven Rage's matches where you're such a fan of his and you have to kind of be neutral and kind of down the middle? I mean, how do you kind of separate the fandom when you're calling his matches? Talk to me about that.
Well, I look at it like this. The fans, when I look at it like this, the fans, they either cheer or they can boo. But at the end of the day, they'll show respect.
Right. Sure.
To me, to
Sure.
Craven Rage, no matter what, I'll just look at it like that. You know,
That's fair. And certainly, I think that right now, if you look at, I would say, world champions in all of professional wrestling, and Craven Rage is certainly up there with a Roman Reigns, a Disciple here in the UK that's won 2 world championships. He's a double champion currently, and other champions we've had on here that we're friends with: RP Davis, the natural born fighter, and Josh Alexander, the big time guys, MJF. And I think Craven's title run has been almost, if not more impressive than many of those title holders, maybe with the exception of Disciple, because he holds a world title in 2 major promotions and he's got a shot, I think, at maybe getting 3 or 4. But some of those names I mentioned: Roman Reigns, MJF, Josh Alexander, you look at these guys, they don't defend the title every month. They don't defend the title at all in many cases, but yet Craven's defended it multiple times on a card. That shows you the run that he's had here, and certainly I am sure
yeah.
that we'll speak with him quite a bit in 2023. And I mean, give me your impressions then on some other wrestlers that you've had a chance to call matches, and talk to me
Well,
about maybe some people you're keeping an eye on.
I remember calling a match against, well, not against, but I remember calling a match on Sean Jovi. I have much respect for Sean Jovi. Much
Yep.
respect. I mean, he literally paved the way for this company. Paved the way, man. Started up from the bottom on top. I always look forward to calling his matches. Sadly, I couldn't call some of his matches at the last event. Sadly, but I look forward to the next season calling his matches.
Absolutely, no question about it, and certainly kind of seeing his journey and then the emotional match that he had with Darkfire and the wars that he had with the Craven Rage. And I have no doubt that Sean Jovi, of course, our resident rock star, will definitely be back here, and he will have a huge 2023 here. And then speaking of Darkfire's to me, I think if I were to say most improved wrestler or wrestler that I kind of feel is emerging, where he's going to have a huge 2023, I kind of feel like he's at the top of my list, and we had him on, and what an honor it was to have Darkfire on. And what's your impressions on
Oh yeah,
Darkfire then?
Darkfire. He's an extremely great talent. I think he's probably if it if I have to put two wrestlers that I want to see again in a match, it'll probably be Kodak Kid and Darkfire. Because you know, when I see Darkfire wrestle, I'm like, man, he's a great talent, an extreme talent. Oh,
I kind of feel, yeah. Okay,
by the
jump in for
way,
me.
I take back I take back calling Darkfire making fun of his name for saying it's an anime name. I take that back. By the way, I'm sorry. Forgive me,
Okay,
Darkfire.
no problem at all. I'm sure that Darkfire definitely appreciates that, and certainly Kodak Kid's another wrestler that you just mentioned, and another guy that certainly I think we spoke about, and is that's somebody I'm sure you look forward to in calling matches. And when you're watching him up close, now I've obviously gotten a chance to watch you guys, but I'm not there in person. What's that like calling somebody's match like that up close?
Wow, man, speechless. Especially watching him against Craven Rage, man. That was a that was a that was a crazy good match. Probably one of the best matches on of the year.
Absolutely, no question about it. There were many great matches in wrestling championship entertainment, and I would definitely have them at the top or near the top of the list, to say the least, in almost anything Craven does here. And then speaking about some of the awards here in wrestling championship entertainment, anything that surprised you in terms of some of these votes? Anything that maybe you would have thought differently on?
Well, not really. None of them really surprised me. The one thing I'm surprised is they didn't have a vote on who was the best commentary. Cause I blow Mark Vinker out the water.
Well, I think at this point, I don't even think it'd be a contest. Maybe that's kind of why they didn't have a vote in that, because they kind of looked at the way you call matches and everything you do, and it's like pretty much. Well, we kind of know at this point that that is pretty much you. You are pretty much our Jim Ross. You are pretty much our Tony Schiavone. You are definitely all of those guys and some. Tom Phillips, who's now a different name in Impact Wrestling. I mean, Tom Hanahan, I believe it is now, and Hannafin, and you're definitely that and some. So I kind of feel at the end of the day, Wrestling Championship Entertainment knows that here. And I wanted to talk about two other names that in some ways were synonymous with each other, and that was the former Interstate Openweight champion, that was James Marshall, and I guess you could say the new Messiah, who kind of had a new, I don't know if it's a new attitude, but certainly maybe a more improved, if you might want to put it, look on things from his vantage point. That was Nicholas Crenson, and certainly
Oh,
James Marshall was dominant for most of the year. He held the Interstate Openweight Championship, and the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, certainly I think is poised also for a big 23. And talk to me about your thoughts on those guys.
my thoughts on those James Marshall, man, what a year he had. I mean, first he started off even disrespecting Nicholas Crenson on, and then like every single matchup just kept beating him and beating him, man. It must have got to Nicholas Crenson's head, and Nicholas Crenson went crazy, you know. I kind of think he's jealous of James Marshall, to be honest with you.
You think so, though? You really do think so? Because, I mean, Nicholas Crenson, he had an impressive year regardless, and he certainly has held his own, and he's here with us on Sportswire Radio, and he
Oh
actually
no,
has some. God, talk to me.
oh no, I'm not saying he ain't impressive. I'm just saying, man. I mean, it took James Marshall just to keep beating him down for his attitude to change, man. You know, maybe his game wasn't right, Maybe he wasn't right in the head. Maybe James Marshall is like a psychologist and got into his head a bit.
Oh, could be so. And Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, says no contest. Prince Charles adds to any match he does commentary on. He is the voice of WCE. I want to ask you a question on that. Is that something that you take pride in? Being that person that when people watch WCE matches or they go to the Wrestling Championship Entertainment YouTube page on a lot of these matches, it's Prince Charles's voice. That you're the guy that's painting the picture. You're the guy that's telling the story. Is that something that you take a lot of pride in
Oh
being the
yeah,
voice of WCE?
absolutely. I take pride in that, because every match has to tell a story, and a commentary has to be behind it as well. Everything's got to work out. And when the commentator, when he's telling the story in that matchup, the fans they're getting into it. Not only out on the field, not only out in the backyard, not only out there, but as fans watch online on YouTube or any internet or any website that they're watching wrestling on. The commentator they have to, even if the match suck, which I don't think matches suck, you still got to make it work. You still got to make the magic happen on the commentary.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I had ever got from a broadcaster that we're friends with here on Sportswire Radio, a guy John Perez, who does Division One college basketball, also does basketball for the John Jay College Bloodhounds, a basketball team here in the New York area. That's my alma mater, and we do some coverage here on Sportswire Radio for. And he actually told me one of the biggest things was as a broadcaster when it's like the worst situation or the game's in doubt or even if the match might be one-sided, those are the moments actually that people really look to your call. People really look to kind of for you to kind of keep them going and to guide them and to stay on track. So sometimes those are the moments that in some ways for a broadcaster are just as important or if not more important than that big match, whether it's that Craven Rage match or a James Marshall match or anybody else. And Craven also agrees that you're the voice of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And I was curious about this in terms of maybe as a broadcaster, what are some of your influences when you want to go out and call these matches? I was always curious about asking you that and talk to me maybe about some of your influences when it comes to maybe broadcasting.
My influences, well, my influence is, getting the moves right, getting everything the right on commentary, getting like the career history right, always acknowledging their accomplishments, always acknowledging, their downfalls, but also acknowledging their highlights of their careers and hyping them up so any fan could be ready for the matchup.
Absolutely, no question and about that for sure. And also, Nicholas Crenton says, "We tell the story in the ring. We are the heart. The commentator is the narrator, adding the soul to it." Is that something that you feel as well? That you're almost like narrating something that is almost kind of almost. How can I put this? I've used this in the past with different people, almost painting a picture. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, most of the times I narrate movies if I'm watching them. I narrate video games if I'm playing them.
Oh,
I even
I
I even narrate the football games.
Wow. Well, I would, you know what? In a way, I'm kind of not surprised. And I want to give a shout out to somebody else that's tuned in here who's also, I'm wondering, and I want to thank obviously our UK audience for tuning in, certainly our UK wrestling stars. And that is, of course, the victorious BMD who just defeated the owner of Colory Championship Wrestling at last week's Colory Christmas Crowd. That's BMD. He says, "Morning, chaps." And BMD, I know I'm going to bring you back on here in a few weeks on Sportswire to talk about it, but it's 3:25 a.m. in the UK. I almost have to ask, what are you doing up? I mean, what keeps you up? What motivates you to stay up this late? I'm always so fascinated when I get my UK wrestlers that are on at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm just curious about that. But also, please, everybody, though, do follow BMD and Colory Championship Wrestling. They do so many great things, and we love Colory Championship Wrestling here on Sportsfire Radio, and we've obviously been very lucky to have their coverage and their support. But Craven Rage has a question for you, and who would you love to see your favorite star to face? Meaning Craven Rage. Who would you like him to see to wrestle?
Well, I mostly like to see him wrestle. You know what? To be honest with you, I'd like to mostly see him wrestle Adonis Phileas.
Really?
Yeah,
Why Adonis Phileas?
because I think Adonis Phileas is a wrestler that is a character but don't have character.
Mm.
I mean, you seen him. I mean, man, blowing
I,
blowing fake Monopoly money to the crowd. I'm like, oh
he's an
man.
interesting individual. I'm just gonna be in a nice way saying that.
And he calls himself the king. Calls himself a king. See, if you want to be a king, you got to earn the title king. The reason why I don't call myself King Charles is because I haven't earned the title to be king. That's why I'm Prince Charles. Prince Charles. See,
Hmm.
Adonis, he should be called Adonis Phileas instead of the Drip King. It should be it should be called Drip Jobber.
Well, I mean, certainly, he might have to answer for that himself at some point here on Sportswire Radio. Maybe we'll get him on to figure that out. But I mean, certainly, I guess we'll find out. I mean, I was also curious on somebody else that I'm sure you saw this not too long ago. There was kind of a funeral for. Certainly, it's on the Wrestling Championship Entertainment YouTube page, and please go over and watch that. Dash Andrews, the funeral for Dash Andrews, and I was kind of curious. A, did you watch that? And B, what's your impressions on Dash Andrews here?
I watched the funeral. You know,
All right.
you know, sad. Sad to see Dash Andrews go. Because if we're being honest, at the end, I
Sure.
kind of respect him with the match he had against Craven Rage. But if you ask me earlier in the year, my impressions, I
Sure.
thought he was nothing more than a cocky, arrogant punk kid that didn't earn the golden ticket. I mean, he literally the whole match, he avoided being in the ring because he didn't want to get smoked by the big man. So I had to interview him, and it didn't go well for him. I had to put it in his head, man, to get to the top, you got to do everything it takes because you ain't going nowhere, pal. Oh, and fans, you want to see it, you can go watch that bloodbath. In in my heart, I kind of feel bad because then he took a 1 month vacation or 2 month vacation because of that. Because he got smoked in the ring because he failed to listen to my advice in basically what should have been a squash match against JDT. It should have been no disqualification. That's just my opinion. But you know, when he failed to take my advice in that matchup, he decided to go home and think about his career. And then he came back, and man, he was a different. It was like he was almost a different wrestler. I was like, man, almost had me scared that we was about to get a new champion. I'm like, Craven, man, don't do this to me. Don't make me cry, Craven. I don't want to see you lose that champion to him. I respect him, but man, you need that title more than him.
Well, I don't think Craven's losing the title anytime soon because that's why he is our reigning, defending Wisconsinite Universal Champion. And of course, he has proven that he is the ruler of the WCE yard. And I do want to get to a couple more comments. Craven says, I prove that Adonis is not a king already. Yeah, I think we kind of got that. Also, want to give a shout out to Sean
For
Jovi, of
real, for
course.
real.
Sean Jovi and his vlogs, over 500 plus subscribers. Sean Jovi has on his YouTube page, also Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We're at 300 plus subscribers. So everybody continue to support these great people. And you have a thought for Sean Jovi now that he's tuned in here? I know Sean Jovi's the master of the
Oh yeah,
Pokemon watch-alongs and everything else, but
oh yeah. I love
give
his
me a thought.
vlogs.
Yeah,
Love
he's
his
awesome.
vlogs. Best, one of the best in WCE. I'd be lying if it wasn't for him, man. Probably I wouldn't even be around WCE in this company. But
Wow. Okay. Okay.
he started it from the ground up. I have to respect that, man. I have to respect that.
No, we love the resident rock star Sean
The resident
Jovi, and
rock star.
yep, and we're going to bring him back on here in 2023. And we are here on Sportswire Radio. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and I am also the man behind Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, please do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. We have over 500 followers, so thank you everybody for that. Also, we are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio. We just passed the little small milestone of 100 subscribers, but I don't really promote YouTube. It's there. But I do appreciate people subscribing. Also, you can catch our radio stuff. We play music from all around the world. We play podcasts and we simulcast those for people that may not be watching us, but they want to hear the audio only at sportinarium.com/player. And we are here with Prince Charles, and we'll also be back here tomorrow for double duty coverage here on Sportswire Radio. We will have on from the Modern Day Mafia, one of the premier tag teams around, and also the newest tag team in Colory Championship Wrestling. That is Joel Cobra, who's also, like Prince Charles, has done some broadcasting. Joel has done some broadcasting for our friends over at GT Ministries, and Joel and Dave Douglas were very successful at the last CCW show as they debuted and successfully defeated the Working Class Militia, the former CCW Tag Team Champions. That'll be at 8 o'clock British Standard Time. And then later on that evening, we will hear from Jorge Diaz from Wrestling Warzone. So I look forward to being with both guys, but we are here right now with Prince Charles, of course, who does double duty for our friends at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And Craven Rage has one more question for you. And Catalyst and the New Messiah, who would you love to see as the best champion in wrestling? Let me reread this again because I'm a little lost here. Last question for Prince Charles: of Catalyst and the New Messiah, who would you love to see as the best champion in wrestling championship entertainment history? I guess this is the question, so I'll answer it. You can answer it in whatever way you can because I don't quite follow the question, but I'm just reading it off.
So, with the exception of Catalyst and the New Messiah, who would I like to see as the champion, the best champion?
Craven, do you want to re-ask the question? Because I'm a little bit confused here. Because I mean, we'll come back to this. I actually want to ask you. Craven can re-ask the question, but there is something I wanted to ask, and I really never really asked this to people in the wrestling championship entertainment, the various wrestlers that we've had on the roster. And when you go on and see whether it's Darkfire and Craven Rage, and they have a match that 4,000 plus people watched, or Fight or Fright, or a number of different shows that you've seen in wrestling championship entertainment where you get 1,000 plus views and 2,000 plus views, and that's a large audience, and that's people all over the world, not just wrestling championship entertainment fans. Those are wrestling fans, pure wrestling fans that really respect this company and really love what you guys have done. When you maybe, let's say, a part of this or calling a match and knowing that there are that many people out there that are watching what you guys do, does that give you extra motivation, or does that make you feel extra incentivized? You know what? There really is a lot of people out there that watch and love what we do. I mean, give me your thoughts on that.
That, I guess you can say, it really motivates me a lot because, I remember back in like the early 2010s, say 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, etc. I pretty much figured that pretty much like the backyard wrestling industry was pretty much dead, and it died off a bit, like I didn't think wrestling, like nobody would watch backyard wrestling, nobody would watch any of it because a lot of them look at it as kind of a joke. Let's be honest with you. I'm not one of them. None of the fans of either WC or any type of wrestling don't think it's a joke, but a lot of people for some reason do. But as of lately, seeing fans come on and liking the shows, liking the wrestlers, liking everything about it, and it really motivates me. I think backyard wrestling is making a comeback, slowly making a comeback.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, when you get that many people that watch your shows or watch your matches or Blaze of Glory, or I mean, so many of the other shows that we've seen here in Wrestling Championship Entertainment over the past several months, Spirit in the Sky, and you get that many people, whether it's 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, whatever it is, that shows you, you know what? Those are just wrestling fans. This isn't just WCE. This isn't just backyard wrestling. And this has always been my belief because we've been very fortunate on Sportswire Radio over my 4 years, just about 4 years. Next month is the 4 year anniversary that I'm interviewing people. And I always look at it like this. If you are going out there and you are putting your body on the line, you are going out there to do something. I think you should be just as respected as a professional wrestler because you are going out there and you are dedicating the time, you are putting yourself, you are sacrificing yourself out there to try to do things, whether it's to entertain, whether it's to improve your craft, whatever it might be. So I look at it, I don't look at it like, oh, they're backyard wrestlers. We can't speak with them. I mean, there are certain wrestlers. I know who they are. I've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm not trying to, sugarcoat it. There are people that look at it and backyard wrestling with kind of almost like you said, like a joke. But you know what? People like what you guys are doing. So clearly, they don't see Wrestling Championship Entertainment as a joke. And you can follow Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube at WCE Heat, WCEHeat.com for more information as well. And Craven has basically clarified his question. So let's coming back up. Question for you, Prince Charles. When Wrestling Championship Entertainment comes back, who would you like to see to face your favorite champ? Catalyst or the new Messiah? Who would you think would stand a chance? Now
Oh,
that makes sense. That makes much more sense. Let's talk about
I don't know. If I had $1 million on me right now,
it.
I'd probably put it on Catalyst
Wow. Okay. Why do you say that? Talk to me why.
because when you seeing him in the last events during the year, it's like you said about me winning my last matches. Man, he's on a roll. I sorry to say, but he's on a roll, man. As
Nicholas
for the
Crenson, though, ended the year, though, with some big
yeah,
wins also. He did end the year very strongly.
I know, but at the same time, the new Messiah. I mean, he ended it off on a good note, but at the same time, he's got other issues like Darkfire. He's got a lot of heat with a lot of fans, a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers in the back. He stabbed a lot of them in the back with what he did. So he's got to face that. And I think it's going to be a distraction when he goes up against Craven Rage because Craven Rage knows how to take care of business. He doesn't even care about the fans or the wrestlers or what they have to say because he handles the business. He already proven that. Let's see if the new Messiah can prove it next year.
Well, before I get to another comment here, and I'm amazed at so many of the UK wrestlers that have tuned in tonight here at 3:40 in the morning. I am so amazed at that, but that tells you that people like what we do on Sportswire Radio. But I'll go with it in two different ways. You look at Craven. Everybody said they've wanted Craven Rage and they've fallen short. Everybody said this and that, and Craven has done the job. And you also look at it when somebody like Catalyst, when I think about in 2022, who is 1A and 1B for WCE, I would say Craven Rage is obviously 1A, and 1B probably would have been Catalyst slash James Marshall, and Catalyst would probably be somebody that's a total unknown, whereas Nicholas Crenson, to your point, he is going to have certainly Darkfire to deal with. And does he have to deal with a Sean Jovi maybe because of that relationship with Darkfire? And could there be unfinished business there? So that's a fair point. And I want to give a shout out and I want to congratulate another person that won some awards this year, our very dear friend who we call Mr. Sportswire. His name is the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. Of course, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, also a master at vlogs and on YouTube as well. You can follow him, the lawman K Kennedy on Twitter, and certainly Mr. Justice Kyle Kennedy on Instagram as well. And so many great things that the lawman Kyle Kennedy has done. He has certainly been one of our favorites here on Sportswire Radio over the past year, just like, of course, our friends at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And he won a couple of different awards. Some of them I might agree with, some of them I might disagree with. Of course, the main one that he most recently won was Most Hated of the Year by the fans. He also won here the group of the year, team of the year, as you might want to say here in the United States, the Society, which he is a part of alongside Callum Jakester and Remus Kane. So certainly congratulations to the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, on winning not one, but 2 awards. He was also for a very brief period, he was the nonstop action wrestling world-class champion. And I have a feeling he will get his hands on some gold very soon. And the lawman thanks me. And of course, the lawman will be back on very soon on Sportswire Radio. And let me ask this, because I asked 2 other wrestlers this, Prince, and I'll ask Kyle Kennedy this question because he's up at 3:40 a.m. And what are you guys all doing up? I mean, is it just that the curiosity of me interviewing wrestlers? Once again, in fact, I even had one wrestler from CCW a couple days ago. He messaged me. This had to have been like 2 o'clock in the morning, about 2:30 in the morning, our time here in the East Coast. So it'd be probably, about 2:30. It would be 6-hour difference for you. And he says, when are you doing an interview? I got nothing to do. Who are you speaking to? And I'm like, well, I have one coming up with you, Prince Charles. So that's, something I was just curious about. And Craven Rage says, did Prince Charles want Catalyst to kick off next year? Is that something that you want? Do you want to see him kick it off against Craven Rage? Is that something that you'd like to see?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, I already seen Craven Rage go up against JDT, and man, what a brutal match that was, man. Fun match, man. That was absolutely brutal. Another opponent that I thought Craven was probably almost was going to lose to, but Craven Rage got the job done and won it. Then had to go up against Dash Andrews the next day in 3 stages of hell match. You got to respect that, you know.
No, I tell you what, and what he's done, Craven Rage, this year in many of our shows, is he's wrestled not once but twice. I mean, I had made the point. Roman Reigns defends the title once every 3 months. MJF is defending the title one time since he won the AEW title. Josh Alexander at last week's Impact show, they actually Scott D'Amore told him and Bully Ray, don't come the next couple of shows. The next Impact shows, next time we're not going to see you is until Hard to Kill, January the 13th. So those are the major world champions, and those guys don't even defend the titles. Whereas Craven Rage, he's defending the title not once but twice at a show. So that shows you basically, and look at the people that he's faced off with: Darkfire, Sean Jovi, Crenson. You mentioned JDT, you mentioned Dash Andrew. It's a long list of people, and he's beat them all. I mean, that's how impressive he's been as a champion here. And
that's why I'm looking forward to Catalyst, to kick it off. Champion versus champion. I want to see it, man.
And I have some more. We will definitely do that. And I have more comments, and I want to make a couple of announcements here because people are tuning in here. So people seem to like you, Prince Charles. I'll tell you that much. People definitely seem to like what you bring to the table. And I want to give a shout out first to one of our new friends here on Sportswire Radio that we're going to be speaking with here. That is pro wrestling star, also here from my neck of the woods, coming up here next Tuesday, and that is Vinny Espada. He's known as Vinny Anarchy. We've seen him in places like FWE, and he's also wrestled some really, really who's who of people here in the New York area, and that'll be in the afternoon coming up next Tuesday. Very, very excited to speak with Vinny, and Vinny's got quite a story ahead, and it'll be 3 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock British Standard Time. So excited to speak with Vinny Anarchy, and he also says, looking fresh, Tom. Well, thank you. I actually tried to look fresh. I'm not as fresh as Prince Charles, though. Prince Charles is a great commentator. Roman is the man. Also want to give a couple of shout-outs to the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, who enjoys Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And he's, by the way, from some great companies, Nonstop Action Wrestling. If you have not followed them, I highly recommend that you follow them. They are at Nonstop Action Wrestling on Instagram, NSAW Wrestling UK on Instagram, Facebook, Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe. Also, NSAW Res_UK on Twitter. YouTube, Nonstop Action Wrestling. And he says, of course, always love tuning in when I can to Sportswire. And I can't wait to get you back on, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. I might have to ask you, what is your plans the second week in January? Because I think it's time to speak with you once again, because I'm sure there's a show we can talk about with you. And he says, 2023, year of the lawman. I promise you that. And just a little backstory on Kyle Kennedy, real quick, for some of our new fans that are tuning in on Sportswire Radio. 2022 felt like the year of Kyle Kennedy because for a long time, Prince Charles, he was undefeated. Basically, for over a
Correct.
year, Kyle Kennedy was undefeated, and he had squared off with a who's who of British world champions, and he knocked them down. So Kyle Kennedy had a big year in 2022, but he's going to have a bigger year in
Uh,
2023.
right.
So
Look
very,
forward
very
to that,
excited
man.
about that. Absolutely. And I want to ask you then this question in terms of 2023 for you. What is your goals in professional wrestling?
Well, I have, three goals. Number one, improve on commentary. Even though fans like me, you know, but my plan is to get better and better, so that I attract more fans and I attract more people to the company. Number two, my second goal, I got to get back at Tyler Ark. I
Ooh.
hate that I lost to him in that matchup, all because I lost my shoe. Tyler Ark, I'm surprised you have. I don't blame you, but I'm surprised you didn't ask me about him, man.
Well, I listen.
Man,
I wanted to listen. What I always try to do, and I learned this from when I've covered at college athletics because I have a background in that. And one of the things I've always learned is never try to get somebody off a loss. So I want to kind of skip that in a way and talk about the win over Jay Styrio because that was
yeah,
certainly a back and forth match. So
yeah,
what I've learned, because I cover college athletics here on Sportswire, university athletics for our UK listeners out there. What I always have learned, whether it's dealing with a coach or an athletic director, is try to get the person when they've won. Because nobody likes talking about a loss. So I wanted to talk about the win the last
yeah.
time we started the win. So I'm aware of the loss,
W-
but I wanted to get you off the win.
Well, I did beat him by having breaking news last longer than his Tyler Ark show, so I
Well,
did
I
win
mean,
on that one.
well, certainly, his speaking, I would say, does not pale into comparison to you. So certainly, public speaking is not his strength, but public speaking is your strength, and that's why we have you here on Sportswire Radio
Yeah,
for
but
about
I still gotta
15.
beat him though.
Well,
So
well, you know what?
second goal, beat him.
And what's the third goal?
Third goal, third goal. I know it's gonna take me a long time, but you know what? At the end of 2023, whether it be fight or fright, I might have to go for the interstate title.
Ooh, and we know that everybody's going to want that championship because there's obviously some news about that out there. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say it, so we'll certainly, I'm sure, mention that down the road. But certainly, that's going to perk up some interest there. That Prince Charles and maybe some other people out there might be looking at that championship. I mean, we'll have to, I'm sure, talk about that here coming up on Sportswire Radio. And obviously, Craven Rage is back with us. He says that he would love to see us together calling some matches. Listen, as Vince McMahon famously says, you never say never. So it's certainly, if the door is open, certainly it would be a tremendous honor to do that. If there's a will and way, we can certainly make that happen. And I obviously would love to be on a call if certainly the good people at Wrestling Championship Entertainment want that and the people want that. And I want to go back to something that you said about broadcasting for a second because you talked about you would call almost anything, whether it's, let's say, a football game, a basketball game, a wrestling match. And that reminds me of when I was a kid. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and whether I was playing a lot, I'm old enough to remember of before it being an internet and having cell phones, you would go outside and just play with people randomly, right? And I remember kind of calling my own shots, playing, baseball and basketball and those different things, and people always said, oh well, you have a voice for broadcasting, and I didn't go into that background until 4 years ago. But I mean, was it, let's say as a kid, was that something you were doing and you always said, you know what, yeah, I can do this? I mean, I'm just so curious about that because you take me back to, let's say, 20, 25 years ago in my day. I was doing those same things, and we didn't have the technology we had back then. I don't know how old you are, but we didn't have that, so it was almost like people looked at it as like I was annoying, and people would just like they didn't know. But you've done something where so many people have heard you, and just go back to that if you could.
Well, basically, you'll be shocked, but I started first calling my own, like, narrating myself when I started playing football. You'll be
Okay.
shocked because I used to play, RYS football league. I used to play that. I also play basketball, but not as much as football. And sometimes if I'm watching the game, sometimes I would commentate in my head what's going on. Or at times, if somebody else was filming it, I would watch the film later and then I would kind of commentate on my own on what's happening with the game, even though I already knew what happened. I already knew who won or lost. But I also wanted to commentate the game just for it to be like even more fun, even more exciting. Because at times watching matches in wrestling or watching like the game, if you there's no unless you're in the crowd or unless you have a favorite football team, favorite wrestler, watching like the matchup and games without like commentary, there's like it's a totally difference. It's not like as exciting
Hmm.
because I remember as a kid I went to a WWE event when I was alive when I was I believe 11 years old. I
Okay.
was 10, but I was turning 11 years old. And I kind of totally saw the difference when I didn't hear JR or Jerry Lawler commentating. I was like, dang. And I was watching the matches. I believe the main event was John Cena versus Shawn Michaels, and
Wow. Okay.
I
Okay.
didn't get to listen to JR or Jerry Lawler call it. I'm like, dang man, if only I could have heard them
Yeah, you don't
commentating.
get that at a house show. You
That's the
don't get
one.
that, unfortunately.
Yeah, if only I had heard that. So so people don't look at it that way, but there's a total difference in hearing people call games or call matches than to watch them in silence.
It's a different approach, and people look. It's kind of you are going back to the narrating point, and when you go watch an event, it's any type of event. And again, we cover college basketball here on Sportswire, and before COVID, when I was covering college basketball live, it would be exactly the same thing. And I do have a question, which I know the answer, but for those that are watching and listening, that might want to hear it from you. We have it here from somebody else that's interested in wrestling championship entertainment. And where are you guys located?
Oh, we're located in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive. And obviously, that's in the Midwest for those that might be watching all over the world. That is almost sort of in the center of the country, you might want to say, and near places like Illinois. You guys are nestled, I guess, in between Milwaukee and Chicago. That would be for geographic purposes. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much, but basically kind of like up north type, kind of almost closer to Green Bay a bit.
Okay. Okay, well, certainly, if you're a Green Bay Packers fan, you got to be happy these last couple of weeks because the Packers certainly have put themselves in a position to sneak into the playoffs.
You have to bring that up. You have to bring
Are
that
you
up.
Packers fan, or am I missing something?
Mm, a lot of fans gonna hate me, but nah, not
Okay,
me.
I'm not a Packers fan. I mean, I'm indifferent.
Oh,
I'm assuming you're a Bears fan.
yeah.
Well, we'll move on then. We'll move on. We'll obviously move on. Uh, we'll come back to that, I'm sure, another time. I wanted to ask you before I get to closing thoughts and a couple of different things, as we are here with the man behind WCE's commentating for all the great matches that you see. That is, of course, Prince Charles, and also Vinny Anarchy wants to say you're a Bills fan. No, he just answered it. He's a Bears fan, so that's what he just said. So, actually, I think
Which
yeah. Well, I
Well,
think
I do
maybe.
like Josh Allen though, so I do like Josh Allen, so
Well, I'll tell you what.
maybe I will.
I hope if somebody's out there still in fantasy football playoffs, I would obviously say make sure that you have Josh Allen on your team because that's how you're going to get yourself a championship. But I wanted to ask you in terms of before we get to a couple different other things as we are here with commentator and wrestling superstar from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and that is Prince Charles. And is there one or two things that you're looking forward to most from Wrestling Championship Entertainment in 2023?
Well, I probably have a lot of I have a lot to look forward to, a lot of interesting things to look forward to. One, my career, and two, basically just, no matter who's out there, who's wrestling, heck, if somebody wants to join commentary with me, let's make the magic happen. Let's put on the best shows. Let's give the fans what they want. Let's give the fans what they need.
I almost have to ask you a follow up then because you said something that's rather fascinating to me. Would you want someone broadcasting with you regularly, almost to kind of bounce things off?
Well, I mean, I can commentate by myself. I like commentating by myself. I think I do a good job commentating by myself. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I know.
But
I've heard you on the call. You're a very good announcer. I
don't
take
get me
nothing
wrong.
away from you.
But I don't mind, commentating with somebody else. I had wrestlers come on and commentate with me. So, I really wouldn't mind having somebody, just as long as they don't steal my thunder. But but I don't really mind.
All right, all right. Well, I mean, that's certainly food for thought. Certainly, I always thought that would be fascinating because, again, you think about broadcasting, and obviously there's always at least a 2 or a 3 person booth, and you think about obviously you watch Raw, you watch SmackDown, AEW usually has either a 3 person booth, but most are a 2 person booth, and also have a couple of shout outs for some more people. So we'll hang out for a little while longer because people certainly are dropping in. First, Vinny says, I'm from Buffalo. The Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I also hope to work with Prince Charles in the future. And Prince, I'll make sure to bring this up next Tuesday with Vinny because I'll ask him that same question. And the powers that be in Wrestling Championship Entertainment have to be wondering maybe they want somebody who has a wrestling background like a Vinny Anarchy. Obviously, he's done a lot here in the state of New York, especially in upstate, whether it's in Erie County, I think it's Onondaga County, Ontario County, maybe some of those smaller counties up there where Vinny is from. So maybe Wrestling Championship Entertainment is scouting talent. And we also have a comment from the Drip King, Adonis Felio. He says, Drip King on the scene. Merry Christmas to you. But he didn't say Merry Christmas to Prince Charles. Am I reading into anything there with that?
I don't need a Merry Christmas to him. But since I'm a nice guy, I'll say it to him. Merry
Ooh.
Christmas, Drip King. Merry Christmas.
Well, he looks different. Do you like his Facebook photo? He looks different in this photo.
Yeah. Well, yeah and no. I mean, yeah, it looks cool, but at the same time, his money's fake and his crown's fake.
So are you saying that he's got a crown like Burger King and money like Monopoly? Is that what you're trying to tell us here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, certainly, I have to say maybe one day we'll get Adonis's side of the story, and I will say I'll think of you because I am anxiously waiting for WWE Monopoly. I purchased it last week, and unfortunately, I still haven't gotten it yet. So I'm almost hopefully wondering if it was just lost in a shuffle somewhere. But Adonis also says, for you, that must be fighting words. So maybe we're seeing something brewing here on Sportswire Radio for 2023 that maybe fighting words are ahead between Prince Charles and Adonis Felio. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, stay tuned and figure it out. Certainly, we'll cover it here on Sportswire Radio, definitely for sure here in the coming weeks and months. Go ahead, jump in.
Let's just see what happens in 2023. I'll probably take his crown and I'll improve it then maybe I'll be King Charles because I earned
Hmm. Hmm. Well, there was famously Sir Charles in basketball, right? Charles Barkley, and there's Prince Charles, and maybe there could be King Charles. In fact, there is a Prince Charles because we think about the royal family in England. So that means you'd be moving up. So maybe you should be a king, King Charles, right? Because there's Prince Charles out there, right, in the UK. There was Sir Charles in basketball, the round bound of rebound, Charles Barkley, who's now going on to be even a more well-known commentator, also like yourself, and then maybe that would mean you could be King Charles. I'll let
interesting
it
thoughts.
slide. That's what we do here. He says, I'll let it slide for now. Okay, all right, fair enough here. So we're coming up to our time here to an end on Sportswire Radio with Prince Charles, of course, who does a great job for our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment, who I cannot stress enough. You need to follow WCEHeat.com. Wrestling Championship Entertainment on YouTube, Facebook as well at WCE Heat. You can sign up and join and vote on great things and all the great things that the company does. And of course, I am wearing my WCE shirt right now because we are speaking WCE Heat coverage. And of course, we have the Sportswire logo on there as well with you. So I wanted to ask you then this last question before I get to closing thoughts. What would you want to say to anybody that's watched you or heard you this past year, or anybody that supported Wrestling Championship Entertainment? What would you like to say to those people?
I'd like to say thank you for the support. Thank you for supporting WCE Wrestling. Thank you for supporting the wrestlers. Thank you for supporting even Craven Rage, because I know inside y'all like him, even though y'all don't like him, but y'all like him. I know
Hey,
that.
Roman Reigns, right? Everybody hated Roman at the beginning of the title run. Now they love him when you see the bloodline come out.
And I like y'all. I like to thank y'all for enjoying my breaking news because I tell it like it is. And I just like to thank y'all for even tuning in to this interview tonight. I didn't think
Yeah, it
that many
was
people will come, but
well, we're very fortunate and blessed on Sportswire Radio that, we have so many friends and so many supporters out there, also on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. And, I've always been very, very appreciative of people that support me in different backgrounds because we cover other things here on Sportswire in addition to professional wrestling. And I have a background in different facets. So I'm always appreciative of the different people that support us and continue to support us. And I know you're a busy man. You have a lot on your plate. And I want to now give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Any social media that you want to plug, share, say. And it has obviously been a tremendous honor to have you on. I look forward to having you on here much more throughout 2023 and getting ready for the season. We're not that far away. So I know you're motivated. I know you're getting ready. I know you're thinking about stuff to do. And I'm sure we'll see more breaking news segments with you. And we'll have more coverage of Wrestling Championship Entertainment in 2023. And the floor is yours now, my friend. So anything you want to plug, anything you want to share, say, fire away.
well, not really a social media guy, but if I want to continue to subscribe to WCE, continue to watch breaking news because I break it down the news to you every single, well, not every single day or every single week, but if I have time, I break it down good, bad, the ugly, and just come check out WCE and just come and if you love it, subscribe to it, and we'll never disappoint. So I like to thank all you the fans. I like to thank everybody that tuned in. Thank you for everybody that's tuning into WCE. We're looking forward to having y'all in 2023. Hopefully y'all enjoy what we have in store. It's going to be a crazy
Absolutely.
ride.
Oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And we love professional wrestling here on Sportswire. And I know what you say back up, but I still consider this professional wrestling. I know that certain people kind of get animated about the differences, but I always feel like it's you guys are going out there and you guys are putting your bodies on the line. And to me, we certainly still respect and love what all of you guys do here on Sportswire Radio. And very, very excited about the future of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Again, 300 plus subscribers, countless people on Facebook. And I think when you see matches like you've seen Darkfire and Craven, you see Spirit in the Sky, Blaze of Glory, Fight or Fright Day 1 and 2, and you see the amount of people watching Wrestling Championship Entertainment, it shows you that good will always find a way out there. And people know something's good, they'll get to it. And Wrestling Championship Entertainment is one of those good things They're one of our favorites. We love to obviously continue to work with Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and we will. My friend, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. Happy New Year out there. Be safe, be well. I certainly look forward to seeing more from you in the future. Congratulations on the last win. We'll certainly go into 2023 with a high note. We always like to go on a high note. And there's an old expression in life I always like to use in my 4 years on Sportswire. A rising tide will always lift all boats. So certainly I have a feeling that you're going to be one of those tides that's going to continue to lift the boats of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Thank you, my friend. Congratulations on all the success. We'll see you next year.
All right, see you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was pro wrestling star and commentator for our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That is Prince Charles, who is coming off a very successful victory at Fight or Fright Day 2 against Jay Styro. He opened the card and he certainly walked away with a much, much needed win that gives him a springboard for a huge 2023. We'll see what Prince does with that, but Prince, most notably, you see for those breaking news segments, also calls, he is our voice of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, calls all those great matches, all the great shows that you see from our friends over at WCE. And I will be back one more time tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with Joel Cobra from the Modern Day Mafia of GT Ministries and Colory Championship Wrestling. Also, Jorge Diaz from the Wrestling Warzone will be with us, I believe, 8 o'clock Eastern Time here on Sportswire Radio tomorrow night. So looking forward to speaking with him. I'll also have coverage Thursday night with the Irish Wonder, double champion Chris Murphy. So looking forward to speaking with the Irish Wonder about 9 o'clock British Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday, we have our yearly recap show of some of the memorable things in wrestling with Wildfire Nate Reese of the LWF and Odyssey Pro Wrestling. That'll be about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So a lot of coverage here on Sportswire Radio. Most people are kind of phoning it in and saying, I'm done with 2022. Not us on Sportswire Radio, not Tom Bryce, not his style. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Also have one more comment. Adonis calls you the Bobby Heenan 2.0 of WCE. Very well could be the case. I'll tell you what, Bobby the Brain certainly rest in peace. And I think Prince Charles could very well take his shoes. He's got even more charisma and he's got a little bit more ring skills. So just maybe I think Prince Charles is on his way to doing that. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you are on sportnarium.com/player, you will go back to your regularly scheduled program when I set the dials. And I'll be back here, like I said, 2 more times tomorrow. And I'll also be back here Thursday with the Irish Wonder, Chris Murphy, and also Friday with Wildfire Nate Reese at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with the regular Sportswire Radio team to get you ready for the NFL Week 17, plus all the latest happenings in the world of sports. Also, a shout out from Eric Frankel, who is watching us. Are you in Vietnam right now? Are you back in Brooklyn? Eric Frankel, of course, ran for office a couple different times. A guy I gotten to know a little bit over the past few years. And are you, just before we go, are you in Vietnam right now? Are you in China? Are you somewhere like saving the world? I mean, I see him on Instagram all the time, and he's somewhere other side. Oh, he's back in Brooklyn. Okay, that's why you're with us, because I would have said, what time would it have been in Vietnam? So obviously, we'll catch up soon, maybe over the telephone, Eric. And he says he got back last night. Boy, you picked the right time, I guess. Christmas flights, I guess, weren't too delayed. But yeah, Eric, let's definitely catch up some other time. And Adonis also wants to remind me, Sportswire Radio is still number one. No, we are definitely number one. Facebook at Sportswire Radio. But thank you, everybody. And also, Eric says, like Vietnam, he likes Vietnam, but with fewer Asian restaurants. Well, I mean, I haven't been there, so I guess I'll take your advice from it. So, but thank you, Eric. Well, maybe we'll get you on one of these days. Definitely message me when I'm off the air. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in here with Prince Charles on the number one